Hello and welcome to the final week of Eating Like a Yogi, Part 1. And this week we are pulling everything together so that you can have an integration of the last 7 weeks that we spent together. And we're going to begin, as we have over the last 7 weeks, with a 2-word check-in so that everybody's here can just give 2 words about their experience of the last week. And as you know, the 2 words can be unrelated, and they can allow you to show up in a very real way so that you can be both, I don't like the example of happy and sad but you could be both frustrated and calm at the same time, for example. So, and I've been loving reading those 2-word check-ins on the forum as well. So I thank you for those of you who are posting those who aren't at the meetups. They're really cool to read after the fact too. Okay, so let's go ahead and check in with those 2 words. I'm going to read names from top to the bottom on my prompter. So Rashmi, from bottom to top. Fort Street.
Okay. Clear and apprehensive.
Okay, clear and apprehensive. Nicole.
I feel peaceful and excited.
Thank you. Lisa.
I feel motivated and grateful.
Thank you. Allison.
Edge and learning.
Great, thank you. And Alice.
Tired and peaceful.
Thank you. And my 2 words are, I'm feeling giddy and grateful. So here's what stood out to me over the last week when I went back to your awarenesses from your integration of the last 7 weeks, because we had questions on the topics of all the yums. And that was kind of big, trying to pull out major themes, because you all did have a unique experience of this course. There were some themes that rose to the top and some things that stood out to me more, but that was an almost overwhelming task to go back and pull those out and see what kind of clumped together as well. So one thing that did stand out, this was a takeaway that stood out, was one of her points was about when she did the class on the yums, that the yums are things that we take into consideration before we take action. So I thought that was really poignant, and also something that a lot of you are probably taking away from this course as well. A big takeaway, and this is something that a lot of you spoke about, was how ahimsa and loving kindness is the most effective when you practice it towards yourself first, and then how this has a spiraling out effect, and how ahimsa affects all the other yums. So satya, asteya, brahmacharya, and aparigraha. And then a lot of you spoke about how being more loving and kind relationship with your food allowed you to have a more loving and kind relationship with yourself, and then also other areas of your life and those that you're in relation with. So it was like this relationship with loving kindness went in all directions of your life, and that was really beautiful. A lot of you spoke about how helpful it was to discern between the different kinds of hunger: eye hunger, nose hunger, mouth hunger, stomach hunger, cellular hunger, thought hunger, and emotional hunger. And I appreciate too how a lot of you spoke about the challenge of connecting with cellular hunger, and that's something that I think I will try to be more specific with next time through the course. And also, I don't know if you saw my comments on this on the forum, but once you've been through this course once, you can moderate the course at a greatly reduced price next time through. So we will be offering part 1 again before we go on to part 2. And a lot of you talk about the pacing of this course too, that it was like a lot kind of to take on and to take in all at once. So you'll have a chance to go through it again for sure. And everything here that you have access that is up on the forum, on the Eating Like a Yogi section, will stay up, and you'll have access to that as long as you're a member. So you can go through that as many times as you want. Many of you spoke about learning to be able to trust and understand your stomach hunger, learning that to differentiate between mouth hunger and stomach hunger. And then, again, that needing that clarification around cellular hunger. So I really do appreciate that. I also see a lot of great potential for going into cellular hunger a little bit more in part 2 of the course when we get to the week on Sauch on cleanliness too. Many of you spoke about learning to be able to trust and understand. A lot of you spoke more about being more tuned into your energy and how food affects that balance. That was brahmacharya. And then a lot of you spoke about bringing awareness to your inner critic and the realization that you don't have to believe everything that you think. One thing that stood out for me about a few comments that I read was better discernment between fatigue and being tired and hunger. So in other words, you were able to discern when you needed to take a nap, rest, or go to bed versus when you may have filled that energy gap with the food before. A lot of you spoke about gratitude for the abundance of food that's available to you and all the people involved in bringing food to your plate. There seems to be a greater sense of connection to your food overall, and gratitude for that. A realization that there's more than enough, and a desire to honor the Earth's precious resources. And also an honoring of the sense of spaciousness of time around your food, giving yourself more time for preparation, eating, and the whole act of eating. So that was beautiful too. This was a big takeaway that staying in the present moment is important. What's true for you now may not be true for you in 5 minutes, in an hour, in a day, in a week. Truth is a moment-to-moment experience. In the present moment, you can have an awareness and the choice to be mindful of your experience. And in this course, we choose to be mindful about our food. And of course, a lot of you spoke about how that just moves out into so many different aspects of your life as well. And then many of you wrote about how eating's become a much more holistic experience for you. So from something that you experience on all the levels of your being, so your physical body, your emotional body, your mental body, and your spiritual body, to the entire experience of a meal, so planning, cooking, arranging, eating, savoring, and finishing. So this has just become this much more holistic experience. So that's what stood out to me about your comments on the forum, which were incredibly rich. And I appreciate them so much because they just contribute so deeply to the overall learning, and I know each and every one of you get so much out of reading each other's comments, and a lot of you spoke about that as well. So thank you to all of you who take the time to make the course richer by putting your comments up there. It makes a huge, huge difference to the overall experience of the course. Okay, so let's begin our integration of the overall course now with this guided meditation to take you through that. And we'll kind of think of this as a giant Shavasana for the last 7 weeks. But we'll do it sitting up so that you can not fall asleep. I'm going to mute you all so you have a nice quiet environment. This is sit in a way that's comfortable for you, yet alert, with your feet on the floor, legs and arms uncrossed, sinking down through your sit bones, lengthening up through your spine, drawing your head over your rib cage. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And let it fall out of your mouth. We're going to spend the next several minutes, next little while, reflecting back on your experience of the Eating Like a Yogi course, the last 7 weeks. So let's go all the way back to even before the course started. And remember your thoughts around thinking about taking the course and making a decision to, maybe I'm going to take the course, maybe not. Is this going to fit in my life? Is this what I need? Is this what I want? And right up to the decision to go ahead and commit to taking the course. And then reflect back on your intention for the course when you first came in, what it was that you wanted to receive from the course, why you were here. And then there were the first week of classes on ahimsa, loving kindness, meditation through your koshas, through all the layers of your being, in the articles on ahimsa. And then the journaling questions and activities that went through that, some of them that stood out to me were that primer for your journal where you said, body, tell me what you need. And then that great activity that we had so much discussion, and I feel like it was one of those things that stood out about the course, was creating that meal of loving kindness for yourself where you were the guest of honor. And then one of our first meetups, we had that story of Sally. On the week on truthfulness, there's the mindful eating classes, meditation and lecture. And that was the week that we started to introduce those 7 different forms of hunger. Nose hunger, thought hunger, what your mind was telling you. We had those activity of putting a food in a bowl and inhaling the fragrance of the food. And then it was the next week we introduced you to the concept of your inner critic. We did the meditation on your inner critic. And you met the inner perfectionist, the inner pusher, and then the Gram Pumbaa, the inner critic. And on the week on Asteya, abundance, we reflected on what steals your time from bringing your awareness to your food and reframing that to be generous with yourself. And generous with the time you spend eating. Then that week I had you bring your favorite food to class. And we did this really slow meditation where you experienced your favorite food moment to moment, exploring it from all different angles and from all the different hungers. And the following week, we did classes to focus on brahmacharya and balancing your vital life force energy through the food you eat and the way you interact with the world and the way you take in the food in your world. And all those questions about balancing your life force energy. And then that week in class, we did a meditation on creating balance between our internal and external world through the labor that brings us our food, and also that Tonglen practice of taking on the suffering that we experience, knowing that other people in the world experience that same suffering. And we used the example of suffering through the pollution and pesticides that are used to grow our food. And then there were the classes on aparigraha, again acknowledging abundance, remembering how we acknowledge the abundance of food that's available to us, and the labor that goes into our food. And that week we also explored our comfort levels with our stomach being full and our stomach being empty. And there was quite a few different experiences with those sensations, so each person's reaction to those were unique. And then last week we did a meditation in class that you could do at the beginning of any meal or at the beginning of any time you were to eat to check in with how much you have on your plate and how much stomach hunger you have, to see how much you want and need. And it was a really cool meditation around stomach hunger, and it was a really good meditation to bring that aparigraha and acknowledging abundance together. So when you reflect back on all of that, what stands out to you? What was most important to your experience? And take a deep breath in and let it fall out of your mouth. And ask yourself, how does that thing that stands out relate to your day-to-day experience of eating? Or what does that thing that stands out to you reveal about your day-to-day experience of eating like a yogi? Take a deep breath in through your nose. Let it fall out of your mouth. Now connect to that part of yourself that is all wise and all knowing. The part of you that wants only the best for you. When you connect to that place, see if there's any wisdom or guidance there for you now. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Let it fall out of your mouth. And find a way to acknowledge yourself and your experience, starting with the words, I am. Then take a deep breath in through your nose. Let it fall out of your mouth. What's one small thing that you can do to put what you have learned or what you're taking away or what you've acknowledged about yourself into action as you step away from the course now, away from our weekly meetings? Not in a change the world kind of way, but some small, easy to integrate action. Something you can picture yourself doing easily. And then take a deep breath in and let it fall out of your mouth. begin to set an intention for what it is that you would like to speak about your experience over the last 7 weeks, about this meditation in our circle, what it is that you're taking away with you, the most significant thing that you're taking back out into your life. And if you're listening to this on the recording, what you would like to write on the forum. So we all really benefit from hearing about each other's experience, and your experience is valuable to our learning. So set an intention of what it is that you'd like to speak about, what it is you're taking away, the most significant thing you're taking back out into your life that you'd like to speak about in our final circle or post about on the forum. And once that feels clear to you, you can start to deepen your breath. Feel your feet on the ground. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Okay, who would like to speak first about what they're taking away?
Melissa, I can speak if you like.
That'd be great. Thank you, Lisa.
So earlier today, I was looking back through all of my notes. I'm a note taker, so I had pages and pages, and I thought, okay, because I was coming to this tonight, I thought, okay, I want to see what did I learn from, I guess, all of these weeks. And I guess through each week of notes that I wrote about, each week I looked at and wrote about how paying attention, those words always came across, and being in the moment and awareness. And so I think each week, no matter what the topic was, about non-stealing or balance or, all of those topics, each week what I kept finding was, for me, was I needed to pay attention to what was going on. Like, life just gets so busy, and then I get fixated on feeling busy, and I think sometimes I make it an excuse for, why I ate potato chips instead of cooking supper because I was busy today, So, but all through of it, I looked at just paying attention to each part of my relationship with food. And then, I went back to the very beginning because I couldn't even remember what I had said my intention was for this course. So I went back to see what I had written. And my intention was to eat mindfully. So I thought that was really interesting that I had forgotten what I was even trying to learn from this course. And really that's what I ended up learning, was to be mindful about my experience with food. And you talked a lot about loving kindness and whatnot, and I think it's so easy just to be, I would never treat somebody else how I treat myself. So I don't know, it was really interesting to kind of pay attention to how I was treating myself. I never realized, I always thought, you know, I had this awareness and this, I don't know what, wisdom or whatever, but I didn't. I was being unkind to myself. And so there's that part of it. And then when we were just having this meditation, the other thing I thought about was, you know, a number of years ago I learned, I went through this little event in my life that was kind of a significant event and a learning experience. And I learned about living in the present moment as opposed to always, you know, worrying about the future or having fear about the future and worrying about the past. And I know you've mentioned through a number of your yoga classes Dan Millman. Those were some of the books that I'd read at the time, and a whole bunch of different books, but I know he talked a lot about that, and I really learned a lot about, you know, the pleasure in life is really in right now and not worrying about, you know, back then or what's going to happen down the road, because it's really, none of those are real. The only real time in our life is right now. And so while I was thinking during this meditation, I thought, well, how interesting that I learned to apply this living in the moment to lots of things in my life, but not food and my, you know, so through this course, what I just realized that 5 seconds ago was that paying attention is also about, you know, living in the moment. So if it's mealtime and I'm eating or I'm planning my meal or thinking about food, it's also about living in the present moment and not worrying about the past or having fears of the future. It's just taking the time to experience where you are right now, even if that involves food. So it's kind of the same thing, which is interesting that you can learn something, but only learn it for a little piece of your life and not have it apply to all parts of your life. So anyway, I think it's really interesting that paying attention bit for me kind of went back full circle to my original intention. And yeah, anyway, it definitely feels good to learn something else about your life.
I think sometimes we can learn something and even say it in the same way, but we've integrated it or we know it in a different level in our bodies, or we just really understand it better. So I can say something, like I can explain to one of my friends that, like, this is what I learned, and I'm like, I know it sounds trite, and I've told you this before, but I really understand it now, right?
Right.
It's the same. It was my intention, but now I really get it, right? So I think that's what I hear you saying, and I totally get that it's this whole new level of learning for you. I think it's really big. I think it will enhance your experience of being in the moment in other areas of your life too.
For sure, yeah, I agree. Yeah, it makes me feel excited about something. Yeah, good.
Yeah, it's exciting. Very exciting. Thank you, Lisa.
Welcome.
I think what stood out for me too was related to mindfulness and being aware, and it was really interesting to learn that 7 types of hunger meditation, and I think that's what I will take away the most from this course. I've always been quite good at tuning into my hunger, but now I know that it was stomach and mouth hunger, always. Unless I was really ill or fatigued, and then I might kind of hear a little bit of cellular hunger coming there, but usually it was my stomach saying, hey, it's time, what have we got? or my mouth thinking, right, that's going to be good, that's going to be good, let's have that. And also at the same time there was this sort of attachment to what my mind knows, in inverted commas, is good. You know, I've been mostly eating vegetarian food for a long time, and if you're doing that, you've got to be aware of nutrition and make sure that you're getting this and that nutrient and you know, balancing this and that. And I've realized through doing this 7 hungers check-in more often that I've been quite attached to that, and always at the back of my mind there's this, okay, have you had your whole grains today, and have you had your fruit, and how many portions of this have you had, and actually I don't need to fit into that. It's a diet really that I've sort of created in my mind over the years from reading about nutrition and these things. When you asked us in that meditation, I am what? It just came, I am free. I feel freed up from that kind of schedule in my mind that I didn't even know was there. And so I think that I'll be able, every time or most times that I feel hungry, I'll be able to just quickly check in and say, okay, where's that coming from, and what do I really need, and do I really need anything now? So for me that was really useful.
Yeah, I agree. Having that discernment between the different kind of hungers does really free you up. Once you get that your mouth is totally different than your stomach, it changes everything, doesn't it? that just blew my mind when I learned that. Yeah. Yeah, that's some powerful stuff. I'm glad you're free. Phew! What a relief. Who would like to go next? You're all so polite.
I'll go.
Thank you, Nicole.
I think my big takeaway was also about being present and being in the now. To be able to get to that, I needed to realize that I needed to let go of some attachment to some rigidity, not just concerning to how I was eating and what I was eating, but to an attachment to a label of an issue. But to be able to let go of that issue, I had to dig even deeper and figure out where some of my resentment was coming from. And it didn't really have anything to do with the food. It had, and this was not an easy thing for me, but I had a lot of anger towards my mother. For me to say, I'm angry at my mother. I'm angry that she worked so much and left me at home. I'm angry that she didn't teach me good ideas about body image and food. I've been angry at my mom. So I don't know why it was so hard for me to admit that my anger went back to when I was my youngest child's age. But that's how long. That's how long. I can remember. I can remember how long that's been with me. Once I was able to make that admission without feeling like a horrible, horrible daughter, I was able to start feeling more compassion towards my mom, but I was also feeling more compassion towards the food, and was able to start letting go of the attachment to the identity that my food issues my mind had created, being so wrapped up in that. From the very beginning at that exercise where we were to make our meal for ourselves, and I had such a difficult time, to tonight where I just went into my kitchen and threw something together, not following a recipe or anything, and saying, hey kids, I have no idea what this is going to taste like, but this is dinner. I was able to see that there was a little bit more of a friendly and relaxed attitude. It's not that I didn't care, it's just that I wasn't worried so much that my garlic was properly minced, and I just went in there with the attitude of fun, maybe. And I was in the now, and I wasn't really worried, about the outcome. And we came back in here, and the kid said, that was a do again, Mom. I couldn't even tell you what ingredients I used. Maybe I should have written it down. But it's like, do this one again, Mom. But it made me think about my New Year's intention, which part of was to develop a more relaxed and easy attitude about things. So my experience in this class has actually gone all the way back to January, to my intention there. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
But I really just think how powerful. And then our power went out, and that was another thing. It just really confirmed to me how important just being here and being now and being present, which that was the other part of my New Year's intention as well, is just really learning to be present and being patient with whatever may or may not happen next, not worrying about it. And surrender, and I know that's something that will come more on into, but that was another thing that I was able to connect with. The dying warrior poses are always my favorite. Any kind of warrior poses. I love dying warrior. Which one was that in? That was in the Namaste 37. Was that? I can't remember which one. But I think that was probably the most, during that yoga practice when I was lying in dying warrior, I was just able to, I cried. It's not unusual for me to cry, but really just let it go. Or I don't want to say completely, but the beginning of the letting go process for this particular issue that I wanted to work on. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, you dug deep, huh? I'm
I'm super happy you had the skills from Mentor with Melissa to be able to go back through and see the shadow side with your mom, because you went further than what we offered in this course.
Well, I think I was already, from everything that I've already been through, I think that I was already that close. I think it was just the push that I needed to get to that line. I needed to just cross that line. I think I was almost there already. Just not quite resistance. I'm just very resistant you feel, as a daughter, I feel very guilty if I don't have loving, compassionate feelings towards my mother. We have a very close relationship. She does a whole lot for me.
Yeah.
And to admit that she's not always really been my favorite person, that just makes me feel like I'm doing something wrong as a daughter, or that I'm not being respectful to her.
But in letting go of that effort of keeping that beach ball under the water, you freed yourself to let it go, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's really important to be honest with ourselves and to fully express our emotions and not hide our feelings from ourselves, because then there's a lot of freedom that comes from that. As hard as it is, especially with those real tough spots, like those things that we should and shouldn't, right? There's the critic coming up, and we talked about it a little bit in this course in terms of like cultural conditioning around things with our parents. We didn't go into it too much, and a few of you brought it up. I know Rashmi had some big awarenesses around that too in her final week as well. So it's really big, and I think it's really freeing when you can be honest about that. There's a lot of forgiveness that comes for yourself and for the other person too, but not until that honesty goes on the table, which I think was your experience.
Yes.
Yeah, so thanks for that, Nicole. Rashmi or Allison, would you like to speak about your experience?
Well, I guess I will. Just briefly, initially I took the course because I tend to be really regimented about eating, and it was taking some of the pleasure. I mean, I wanted to go through the process of being healthy without it causing so much worry, or what should I do or what should I not do or whatever. And this course gave me permission to not always do things eating-wise the same way, like every day, just to take every moment as it comes more and just go by what I was feeling. Like I went from, this was way back when, but, always kind of eating the same sort of bowl of cereal for breakfast instantly when I got up, always, doing that. And then I realized, now, since the course, I give myself permission. Sometimes I want to eat right away when I get up, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll wait, do something else first, and then eat. So just, letting those variations just be okay. And just day to day, there'll be fluctuations in how I feel. I also developed more patience as far as the details of preparing food. Sometimes I get impatient with how much time they were taking, and I saw it more as part of the whole process, like almost like a meditation, just being right in the moment and feeling that process. And then it's interesting because even in stuff like going to my jobs, and I I don't allow for extra time. Like now that it's cold, I put on extra layers. So before I teach, I need to give myself extra time to get some more so I can like take the layers off and get ready. And I would resent that or act like it wouldn't take any time. And so then I'd be rushed. So now I'm just allowing for that time. So it seems to be expanding more into the rest of my life.
Beautiful.
It makes things more relaxed. That's just a couple of things.
That's really beautiful. It sounds like it's, to use Alice's words, it's giving you a lot of freedom too. Like you're free too.
Yeah, when Alice, you said that, I felt similar as well. Yeah. Exactly.
Whew. Nice. Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome.
Rashmi?
Hi, Melissa. I would say that when I started the course to where I am, I don't see any link to it now because I had a mindset and when I got into it, I kind of wrote about many intentions, and today I actually feel that, oh my God, like I had a completely different discovery about myself. I never gave priority to food, and in my mind, I don't know what those reasons were, but then with this course, I almost had this enlightening experience, where I knew that there were emotions attached to it. And there was, as much as I'm like pro-women and everything, I never knew that I'm hating something so much because I associate. So it's like somewhere I feel that I contradicted my own thing. So on one hand, I'm like pro-women, supporting women for what they do, etc. However, I didn't take that key role for the fear of so many things that I even wrote in the blog. So that was like a very big revelation that, it was like a priceless moment. And when that came to me, probably 2 weeks back, it took me kind of time to literally write it. First, actually feel it that if I'm ready to kind of share it. I just feel pretty tragic right now. But at the same time, I feel good that at least I know that I have nothing against food. It's just that there are certain feelings which kind of always made me disinterested in cooking or staying in the kitchen. And I just didn't see a value because I think I was associating everything with the recognition that a person gets. So yeah, I think it was pretty big. I am cooking now. I was before, but then now I think I have active interest. I would not say that I'm like all cooking, but the good thing is that when I get inside, I don't carry that emotion with me, that it's going to be undermined, etc. The positive change that has happened is that I'm not looking at the undermining factors, but I'm looking at the value that it is bringing. So how this course added a lot of, it just changed my perspective that rather than looking at the negative side, I'm just giving more energy to the positivity that I gained from this course, such as many people who were involved in making it for me. I need to honor that versus, what people would think about me if they see me in a role such as this. Because those people have not done anything but contributed only negative feelings in me. So I think it's just I think the table's turned basically, I believe. Yeah.
I thought that was just such a huge insight around those that provided you with food, how they had been so undervalued in your life and how you had kind of subconsciously taken that on, and then for that to come to your conscious awareness now was just so huge. And now that it is in your conscious awareness, I think and that there's been this reframe around it too for you, and the way that you can see you have this huge honoring of the people that are bringing you food, and that you see the value in bringing yourself food now. I think it's just going to be this huge game changer for you.
Yeah, I mean, I never got into the course thinking this is what I'm going to explore. So this was nowhere in my plan. I think it happens most of the time with me, actually. My intention always, I don't know, goes somewhere. I end up finding something else. but this is pretty good. The reason why I think that this is the best discovery ever is because this is the quintessential thing for my living. You know, this is the first thing that I need to survive, and yeah, and it's fascinating that I don't know which air, because I'm kind of floating which word. Just knowing right now is a lot. So I'm very, very thankful to you and to everyone.
I can see like Durga doing like this happy dance for you right now. So that's really awesome. So, I'm like so incredibly touched. I have been getting questions since I started filming yoga classes almost 6 years ago about how can I lose weight doing yoga. And I had to grow as a person to be able to see how I could help my students navigate through this question. Because for me, it wasn't going to ever be making a video where we did 100 sun salutations to sweat it off or something. Like that was just never going to be me, right? And every time this question came in, it was a huge edge for me, a really huge edge. And finally, something shifted in me that I received some guidance. I had some insight on, of course, yoga is the answer. The 8 limbs of yoga are the answer. It was in front of me all along, but and taking you all through this process and seeing how for each and every one of you, this wasn't, it became so much deeper and so much more than about losing weight. For most of you have described life-changing experiences here that go far more deep than anything that gets sold to people on such a surface level. So what really stood out to me about the last 7 weeks is that eating can be yoga. Eating can be an experience of loving kindness, and eating can be love. And I really believe that, and I really mean that. I learned really recently, right, or had this explained to me, and probably some of you know of this work through Power versus Force, but one person vibrating at the level of love, and they've done studies on this, and they measure it and everything. One person vibrating at the level of love can raise 750,000 people that are vibrating at levels of fear, pride, desire, grief, apathy, guilt, and shame. And those are levels that these emails are coming in to me at, where people are feeling guilt, shame, grief, desire, for something to shift. And what stands out to me about this whole experience is that when we do practice this way, something shifts, something huge shifts, and we move from it being an experience of stress, anxiety, sadness, and fear about food, about weight, and it totally transforms into something much more meaningful in your life and the lives around you. And many of you spoke about being more connected to the web of life and the interconnectedness with all beings as a result of the insights that you had in this course. And to me, this is the real meaning of yoga. And yoga is the uniting of the consciousness in our heart. That's how Nishala Joy Devi opens her translation of the Yoga Sutras. And I really felt that in this course. So I'm just blown away the way how all of you have transformed something from anxiety into love. And I'm just I'm overwhelmed, and I couldn't have asked for anything better. And I so appreciate all of you, all of your participation, and I so appreciate you all taking the time to write about what stood out to you in the course, and take that time to write about your experience for other people so that, you know, their experiences of anxiety, stress, guilt, shame around food can be transformed from something about diet or losing weight into a beautiful life experience, and that it can become yoga, and they can come into their hearts and into a present moment experience, and they can be free too, because it takes little time. It takes more than doing sun salutations and beating up your body. But it's really it definitely takes beating up your body off the table. So that's my big takeaway from the course, that when we really get centered in this way, it's you know, anything's possible. And I am so grateful. It was just amazing. So thank you so much for making my first time through Eating Like a Yogi just such an experience of gratitude. And it was great. I'm glad I had to wait this long to do it, to be able to put something like this together. And I think be so much great feedback, and we'll be able to learn and grow this material together. This is just the beginning, and I think great things will come out of this. So thank you so much, everybody. And it's all there on the forum for you, and stay in touch, and thank you. And that's it. So thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, Alice, and have a great night, everybody. Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.